Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Kate. I'm so glad that you're with me tonight. And before I introduce our wonderful guest, I just want to say that um, it's been quite a day here in the United States, and I know that it's been a strange and scary and sort of moment by moment watching of the news and my guest, Dr. Fox, and I are not unaware of the fact that there are some momentous things happening today. And so that's on our hearts as we move into talking tonight about something that's much more an area of joy in our lives, namely our animal companions. So everyone, meet Dr. Nicklaus Fox. Welcome, Dr. Fox.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank you
so
for having
glad
me.
that I'm so glad that you're here tonight. I may be president of your fan club. I think you're the best vet in the world, and I'm so lucky that you're the vet of my little family. And my first question is the same question that I ask all my guests. I'm very curious if you happen to be a native Angelino or if you are from somewhere else.
I am from somewhere else.
Okay, where is that? Where's that?
So I grew up in Montana. I grew up on a big sheep and cattle ranch in eastern Montana, and did my undergrad in Bozeman, and then did my graduate work in Fort Collins, Colorado, at Colorado State. And then directly after vet school, moved to California.
What a contrast, though, from growing up on a farm, a sheep farm, did you say?
Sheep and cattle, yeah.
Sheep and2 And now, you live in the Hollywood area, don't you?
West Hollywood, yeah.
West Hollywood. I thought that seems like two very different worlds.
Well, Montana's pretty conservative, as you can imagine.
Yeah. Yes.
Los Angeles is not as conservative.
Yes, exactly. So that's one of the things that I love about LA. It's just everybody's here.
Right.
That feeling that everybody's here. We have a beloved retired bishop at our church, and he was the bishop of the Episcopal Church in Montana for many, many years. So we have our very own Montanan. All right. So you came to Los Angeles. That was after you had already become a vet, right? And did you come here to begin your practice?
Right. Sight unseen. I'd never been to California before. It was a big transition from veterinary school to Los Angeles, getting established and finding my way here.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. But I have a sort of a prior question, which is if you grew up on a sheep and cattle farm, did you ever consider large animal veterinary practice, or did you always know that you would much more want to be with domestic pets?
So large animal medicine is very dangerous. It's working on large cows or bulls or horses. They can injure you very easily if they rear up or fall over backwards in the chute. They can really injure the veterinarian. And usually, especially with large animal medicine, you're either pulling a calf or doing something in the middle of February. It's freezing cold, so I'm like, I'd rather have a temperature controlled. Dogs and cats don't kick very hard. So
no, although they can bite, right?
Horses can bite too. So
yes, I know that my sister has 3 horses, and I give them a wide berth. So when you were growing up in Montana, did you always know that you wanted to be a vet, or how did that idea come into your mind?
So no, I didn't always know that I wanted to be a vet. I knew that I loved animals and I knew that I wanted to work with them, but I didn't know if I had what it took to get into veterinary school. And so I started out getting a bachelor's in animal science, and I didn't know if I was going to use that for research or somewhere in the agricultural industry. I didn't know exactly where that was going to go.
Mhm.
But then once I realized that it didn't take much more studies or a couple of extra chemistry classes
Mhm.
and biology courses to fill the requirements to apply for veterinary school. And I'm like, that
Mhm.
sounds like a good idea because I can be self-employed, I can be my own
Mhm.
boss, I love animals. Um,
Yes.
so uh, in college, I decided to pursue veterinary medicine.
So, uh, and when you first started going to college to become a veterinarian, when you started taking those classes and doing those practicums, did you know right away then that, oh yeah, I'm in the right? Did it feel like an aha, yes, this is it, or was it more of a
Mm,
windier road?
Much windier road. I don't think that aha moment really happened until after I was already practicing medicine.
Mhm.
Because there's the volume of information in veterinary school is like a fire hose. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so much to consume. The course load is so heavy, and we just don't have time to think, basically. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot of hands-on work with clients and their pets. It's all just
Mhm.
academics. And so
Ah,
uh, I didn't once I started practicing medicine, it's like, oh, this is amazing. This is exactly what I wanted to do. This is where I'm
mhm.
supposed to be.
Yeah. It was more, so it wasn't until you were actually in the work itself, yeah? So you
I'm
came to
very
Los
lucky.
Angeles and what?
No, I was just very lucky to choose a career that
Yeah,
is so rewarding. It's a wonderful fit for me. A lot of people,
yeah.
or I know people that go to school, get a degree, and they're not happy with what they've the career
I
choices they've
know.
taken. I'm very lucky.
You know, I feel that way about my work too, and it really is a cliche, but mm, mm, it makes me happy. I mean, it's fun to be doing what I do, even when it's hard. You know, I think it's just a
Hmm.
huge blessing when you find that kind of career. So, um, you talk about how you love it. Can you tell us some of the joys? What are some of the things about being a vet that make you happy,
So
satisfied?
this is a cliche also, but puppies and kittens are always fabulous.
So
They're so nice to see, especially
yeah.
healthy puppies and kittens. But
Mhm.
the other thing that's also very rewarding, it's challenging and emotionally draining, but there's also the other end of the life spectrum with pets. There's the end of life um, situations, and even though it's very painful for the owner to walk through that, it's really a gift for me to help them walk through that as peacefully and painlessly as possible. So even though it's a difficult situation for everybody, it's also a really rewarding gift, if that makes sense for me, to be able to be there, be present, and help them through it. So um, both ends of the spectrum.
Yes. Yeah, both ends of the spectrum. That's
So
yeah, folks listening, so last year I lost my 17-year-old dog, and Dr. Fox accompanied me through that experience, and it was extraordinary. I mean, for the way that it felt to me was that you created almost a religious to me
mm,
it's religious, a spiritual experience, the way that you spoke to me and my pet, and you brought um, an essential oil, a special mix to diffuse, and I mean the whole thing. It was a ceremony, actually, in a way that
hmm
was hugely helpful to me, especially because I mean ritual is so much a part of how I experience the world. And so I was astounded. I mean, it was so hard, and yet it was so meaningful. So it's just what you're describing. Um, and it's beautiful to me that you can feel the value of that for people
hmm
and for the pets, I mean, saying goodbye. I mean, they say that Americans, we're not that great at death. We're not that great at figuring out how to say goodbye, but you've got it figured out. And are you
Sorry.
giving a treat to an animal right now that would otherwise bark?
Yeah,
That was very
Marty's right
subtle.
down here.
Oh my gosh. Can you lift him up so we can see your baby?
Hold on, Martin. This is Martin.
Oh my gosh, he's so darn cute. Look at him. So you adopted him early last
So
year, yeah?
in May 2020,
Uh-huh.
he was 8 weeks. He was uh, dumped in a grocery store shopping cart in Pacoima. Little 8-week-old puppy. So
Mm,
um, now he lives with me.
adorable. I
Yeah, no,
know.
he's
Wow, he
super cute.
really hit the jackpot.
I did, yeah.
No, he did. He did, but you did too, yeah. So the two ends of the spectrum, the sort of beginning of pets, of the person and pet relationship, and then seeing it sort of through to the end as well, um, are joys. And now you also alluded earlier to how you like to be able to be your own boss.
Right.
Yeah. And what would you say is one of the hardest parts of what you do?
Ooh, hardest part for me would be the business aspect of it, because
Hmm.
there's being my own boss, running my own company. Uh, Aside from all the client interactions that I have, there's the business side of it, making sure all the licenses are up to date and the permits, and
Mm,
that's probably more challenging for me because I don't have a business background. But
yeah.
I've been able to work through that, and it's been a journey. But
Hmm.
it's I'm also very happy that I'm self-employed, because being my own boss is it's very rewarding. I can set my own schedule. I can
Mm,
uh, setting my own schedule is probably the most valuable part of it. But
hmm.
the other challenging part of it is what we talked about earlier, was with the end of life stuff. That's
Yeah.
probably, if that happens too often, if I have those if they're too frequent, they're emotionally draining. And I'm sure you probably experienced that too, where it just takes a lot of energy. Uh, and I need to take a break from that every once in a while and recharge, and so I'm present and
Yeah.
available. But
Yeah.
you know,
And you're aware of that. It sounds like you're able to track that in yourself. I definitely think that end of life experiences take take a toll, even when it's so maybe because it's so meaningful, right?
well, that and then just this client communication in general is also draining. Clients have a lot
Hmm.
of they don't have the knowledge base that I have, and so there's a lot of fear that they uh, come to me with, that either their pet's sick, or they have questions about whatever it is, health issues, or my dog has bloody diarrhea, or my dog
Hmm.
is not walking, or all of their concern is that they're very afraid, but they want to make their pet feel better. And so I come to them to help dispel that fear, but that also is very draining. It's so I need to be you know conscientious and aware of my needs, and so I can be present for my clients.
That's amazing. I think that I would wager that most vets don't even think about that the way that you're talking about it, that maybe they think, oh yeah, clients are a handful or whatever. But the idea that you want to be present for us too, because you understand that the combination of us not knowing the science and also being afraid, it packs a wallop. It does.
Yeah,
And so you're taking care, in a way, you're taking care of us right along with the pet.
right. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
We need to
And that,
we need to get go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
No, just say we need to interpret what's happening with the pet, but we also need to be able to convey what's happening to the pet, to the owner, in a message that they can understand. and dispel that fear, calm them down, bring it to a level that, we can get the pet feeling better. Everybody's on the same page, and and bring some knowledge to them as well. So that they can, they can move forward too without being so fearful.
And it's not easy because I think that the feelings that we have that are opened by our love for our pets, it's a very deep place, and you'll find that there are people who aren't even particularly good at intimacy with other humans, but with their pets, they're so vulnerable and they're so engaged. And so it's a lot. I'm sure it's a lot. And yeah, my hat is off to you. And that kind of is a good segue into asking you about the name of your business, which is a little bit unique. Can you tell us what your business is called?
Fox Companion Care. And in West Hollywood, they passed a I don't know what you would call it, but pets in West Hollywood are considered family members, or we're considered their guardians. So they have the same value or status as a human. So
Wow.
it's a West Hollywood thing, but we put a lot of value on our pets, and so we're considered their human guardians. And and then obviously with your dogs or my dogs or my cat, they bring a lot of companionship, and so
they sure do.
There are little animal companions.
Well, this is another, I think, a different way that you practice, because people might not know that isn't it true that most of your work is going into people's homes?
Correct. So I have two parts of my business. One is house calls, and the other is I work for a hospital 1 day a week. About 10 years ago, I started covering for a friend of mine. So 10 years later, I'm still covering their Saturdays for. So I see clients in a hospital, nice. But it's out of the way. But the majority of my business is doing house calls. And so.
And what made you decide to do it that way instead of having a more clinical setting?
So I think that's probably part of the being self-employed aspect of it. Because I worked for corporate medicine for several years before I started my house call practice, and it's just so clinical, and so corporate medicine is it's very structured, and they expect things to be done not in a certain way, but there's not a lot of latitude for veterinarians to be independent. And so it was nice to start my own practice where I could spend more time with clients, not to disclose too much about corporate medicine, but when you walk through the door, there's a number or amount that you're supposed to charge each client, so that it's already in the machine what they expect you to bill out. And I just I always had a problem with that, and so with my own practice, I can structure my billing and my client care to what the client needs. It's not a prefixed number that you're going to get. You're not in the machine. It's more of a customized care.
Did you also make the decision because you sensed that pets like it better that way, being in their own home as opposed to going into an office?
That's a really good point. Pets really, really, it's so much easier on them to do things at home. And some animals are much more stressed out about leaving the home than others. So, and, not to fall back to dwell on the end of life stuff, but doing that at home where they're safe and surrounded by love, and it's just a much more peaceful experience. So especially if we're giving a rabies vaccine or something like that, it's much less stressful at home. So
I mean, it's true. So when you are saying goodbye to a pet, it's easier to cry your eyes out in your own home instead of in an office where everybody is where you feel, like, so it's much easier, I think, that way for everybody.
And cats do much better at home too. The cats
Oh,
hate to travel.
I,
They don't
they
like the
hate to
car. They
travel.
don't like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
They
cats
don't
do
like
better
to
at
be in
home.
a vet waiting room with a bunch of dogs,
No,
right?
right, right, exactly.
I used to go to a vet in Massachusetts where there were two waiting rooms, one for cats and one for dogs,
Hmm.
because it was just
That's
a little
ideal,
easier on
right?
the cats. Yeah. Um, yeah, and some animals don't like riding in the car. I mean, some love it, but some hate it, right?
Right.
And so then they're
Yeah,
they're already stressed out before they even get to the vet's office, right?
correct. Yeah. So this relieves stress. It's easier on the
Hmm.
owners, easier on the pets.
Hmm. Speaking of which, there's one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so much easier. Also, in a vet's office, you put the animal up on a big slippery table, and when you
Hmm.
come to someone's home, you get down to the animal level a lot of times, or
Hmm.
out in the yard, so that they're just not phased by the
Right.
whole experience. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
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 a
a
I'm
treat
a
guy.
huge supporter. Yeah, I know, not to mention the treats. So that's why it's called companion care too, because they're really, it's sort of, I think the name of your business suggests how seriously you take the relationship that we have with our
Hmm.
pets. Yeah, which I think is
I don't
great.
I don't know I don't know if I put that into my own thoughts, but that's a great
Mhm.
in the big picture, yes. They it
Mhm.
just really emphasizes the value of
Of
these
the
animals in
relationship.
our
Yeah.
the relationship and our family, and yeah, so it's really important.
I've never liked the word owner, like to
Hence
be a pet's
guardian.
owner. Yeah,
Yeah.
guardian sounds so much better, so
Hmm.
much better. Um, so I'm interested in, you're your own boss, but what could you sketch a typical day? Like what a typical day in your practice would be like?
So, like we talked about earlier, there's a lot of client communication, scheduling, being my own boss. It takes a lot of administrative time to uh, get the day started. Answering emails, answering phone calls, texts, getting appointments scheduled. And so, before my appointments start, I will prep the day. Doing all
Mhm.
the administrative stuff, and then it's also having everything ready for all of my appointments once I leave for them, because I'm on the
Mhm.
road. So I have to take everything with me and be ready for
Mhm.
whatever that appointment requires. Vaccines,
Mm.
being able to draw blood. Some pets require assistance. If it's a fractious cat or a mean dog,
Mm.
I'll need to take a
Mhm.
technician with me so that they can help restrain or hold
Mm.
the animal while we draw blood. Most
Mhm.
clients are actually really good about handling their pets. So,
Mhm.
but a
I
lot of
guess
it
it would
is
be
prep work.
ideal.
So yeah, a lot of it's prep work, getting ready for the appointments, and then I see appointments uh, midday. Right now, it's not so bad with traffic because of the pandemic.
Mm.
Um, but before the pandemic, I had to schedule around rush hour traffic because that would just screw the whole day up,
I
especially
know.
getting
That's
stuck up.
that's the downside in LA, right? Of being.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like scheduling, because I'm in West Hollywood. If I were to schedule something in Santa Monica in the afternoon, it would take me 2 hours to get back home. So you have to just calculate that all out. So uh, I
Yeah.
don't get stuck in traffic. But now, one of the upsides of the pandemic is I don't have to worry so much about traffic.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. But you just have to worry about getting COVID, right? I
right.
mean,
Well,
coming
and
into
that,
our
and it's
homes,
it's
that's,
it's a legit fear too, because
I know.
I've had several clients that have tested positive, and and one client, she didn't even know how she got it, because she was isolated and her husband was isolated. Aside from seeing my clients that are all isolated, um, we don't know how she got it, which is super scary because I'm sitting in the same room with a potential exposure, and so it's we just have to be extra careful. Just
Yeah,
it's the pandemic is serious. It's real, and people get really sick from it. So wash your
yeah,
hands, wear your mask, socially distance. it's a legit problem right now. And Los Angeles is the epicenter.
Epicenter. I know. It's incredible, isn't it? Well, that sort of leads to my next question, because I was wondering about how the pandemic has affected your experiences of that, and it makes it like, and I think we've talked about that. It makes it easier to get from here to there, but it puts you in danger. You know, which is when you're your business, so
right.
you
No,
can't
if I were to get sick, you know,
yeah.
if I were to get sick, it would devastate. You know, I would be out of work for 2 weeks or a month or whatever it would take to recover. If I was one of the ones that recovered, that's the that's the scary part of it.
I know.
But
We're all scared, but hopefully we'll get vaccines soon.
right. But like Dr. Fauci said, as long as we wear our masks and we're we have the basic hygiene, keeping our hands clean and not touching our face and socially distancing, we should be fine. So we just have to be really diligent with that. I have kind of stopped taking new clients during the pandemic just because I don't know. All of the clients that I have now are super wonderful, conscientious people, and I trust them. Like this one particular client, as soon as she tested positive, she called me and told me that she tested positive. It's just, there's a level of trust that we develop with my clients, and so new clients that I don't know, it's harder to build that trust right away. So I think that once I'm vaccinated and it's less risky, then I can start bringing new clients on board.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so in a few months, it sounds like, well, probably in a few months you'll be. But then there's the other question, though. But even if you're vaccinated, can you carry it still to somebody else, right?
I don't think that you can. I'm not 100% sure, but once you're vaccinated, you shouldn't be. It wouldn't be like you're an asymptomatic carrier once you're vaccinated, because your body will fight off the infection. So
there's some questions in the chat. One person is asking, do you only do house calls? And it sounds like you only do house calls except for your Saturday at the clinic, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So house calls, like 80% of the time it's house calls, and then one day a week.
And how many house calls can you do in a day? Like 4, 10?
Now that I'm just seeing my regular, I'm not taking a lot of new clients. It's down to about five appointments a day. More than that, it just gets a little stressful trying to get everybody seen at a reasonable amount of time. Plus, I've got the new puppy, so I need to be able to get home and let him out and do his stuff. So
absolutely.
So now it's about 5, but it can go up to like 6 or 7 during a busy time.
But if that's a complicated interaction with each little family, right? That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of energy work. So
it takes a lot of energy to be present. Yeah,
to be present. I mean, I think that's exactly. I feel like that in my work too. It's thrilling, but it's exhausting. To be present. Here's sort of a practical question. Can you comment, someone's asking, on the pet food industry and what are the very best food choices, especially for dogs? It's so hard to know.
So there's a lot of controversy around foods right now, as far as raw diet, grain-free, cardiac problems in dogs that have been on grain-free foods. That's a really complicated question. So I think they've worked a lot of the bugs out of the grain-free diets for dogs, but any of the high-quality foods are going to be fine. There's a really good, it's a little bit expensive food available here in Los Angeles called Just Food for Dogs. It's baked, it's not expeller pressed. Some of the foods, a lot of the commercially made foods are in the kibble. When it's pushed out in to make the little nuggets, it's superheated and it denatures the proteins. So the food is less nutritious. So,
Oh,
and
wow.
then we have to be careful with the raw diets because they can potentially have the
Bacteria.
resistant, the E. coli, salmonella. They can actually be kind of dangerous for the humans because if that's contaminated with E. coli and the resistant form of E. coli,
Yeah.
you can get really sick. So you have to make sure you wash your hands with that as well.
It doesn't sound like a great idea to use the raw food. Do you mean that raw
Uh,
dehydrated type of food that they sell?
that's potentially contaminated too. The freeze drying does not kill the bacteria, so
Mm.
it can potentially be contaminated as well. However, do I feed the Stella and Chewy's little treat toppers or meal toppers? That's yes, I do.
Mhm.
But I wash my hands
Yeah.
after I give it to them. So
Okay. Yeah, because I think that dogs find them very delicious.
yeah, and cats. A lot of people feed their cats the um, it's skipping my mind right now, but Darwin's raw diets. It's actually uh, like real raw, like flesh and blood type of stuff. So it's
Oh my
super gross,
gosh.
but the cats really like it. I mean, my clients have shown it to me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, that's disgusting. So I would never feed my cat that because it's so gross. But cats
No.
cats actually do really well on a raw diet.
So it sounds like, though, that you're saying that if you can afford a better food rather than something very, very mass produced, it's good.
Correct. Yeah. So like the Just Food for Dogs, if you Google
Mm.
them, the foods are baked, they're locally sourced, whole food type of foods.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit better.
Um, Another sort of segue into talking about pets during the pandemic time is a question we have here about how do pet psychologists work in these times? Are there actually pet psychologists? Is that a real
Pet
thing?
psychologist, like a
Yeah,
behaviorist,
like
like a trainer.
well, I guess. I don't know. I mean, what if you had a super troubled pet and I guess it would just be a trainer, really,
Or a behaviorist. Yeah,
a
a dog
behaviorist.
behaviorist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like anxiety issues, aggression, territorialism, those things that a lot of rescue animals come with those issues, but a lot of it's training, deprogramming. So I guess you would have a kind of a psychologist approach to it,
Mhm.
to kind of reestablish, their fear issues and whatever's been embedded in them, to get them back to where they can be integrated back into the family without causing a lot of problems.
Mm. So, a lot of people have adopted pets this past year. Have you found yourself uh, being approached by people asking for help in sort of getting acclimated with their new pet during the
Mm,
pandemic?
yeah,
It's
early
been
in the
kind of a
pandemic,
surge. What?
huge surge. Yeah, early in the pandemic, the shelters were actually there weren't any dogs even available for adoption. So I don't know.
'Cause
I think
everybody
it's
adopted instantly, right?
everybody. Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, everybody's got a new pet, either a new puppy
Mhm.
or somebody that they had rescued. So there's a lot of new pet, new puppy appointments that
Yeah.
that are part of the pandemic. Everybody's getting established with their new dog.
Yeah, I guess in a way it's a great thing that if there were animals languishing in shelters before, they're in homes now, right?
hmm That's one of the upsides. Yeah, the veterinary
Yeah.
industry is bombarded. I mean, and I don't know, of people in your congregation, but all the hospitals now are curbside because of the pandemic, and they're
Mhm.
backed up. It takes with some hospitals a couple of weeks to even to get an appointment.
For
So
operations? For
for
pet
any
operations?
routine emergency. It's craziness right now for the veterinary industry, trying to keep everybody, get them seen and get their pets taken care of.
Because there's just so many more pets in homes now, right?
So many more pets, and people have more time. There's my, I apologize in advance. You can hear my senior cat.
You,
Okay.
I told Dr. Fox before the show, it's impossible you can't worry about your pets making noise on this episode.
Well, he's a
But
senior, so he's a little bit disoriented sometimes. He's very vocal.
yeah.
He talks a lot. He already got his evening
Oh.
snack, but he thinks he should have another one. So sorry about that.
When people are thinking about getting a new dog or a new puppy, what is some of the advice that you give to them? I mean, how do you prepare them? For instance, I remember when I was getting my dog, who's 17 years old and died last year, I got him from a breeder, and he said, we don't think that we don't like it when people adopt dogs when they have small children at home, for example. I mean, is that something, do you agree with that? If you're trying to train a dog, it's tricky when there's a small child in the mix. Is that true, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Each family accommodates. I think that's a disservice to the family saying that they can't have a pet when the children are growing up, because it's just so rewarding to have a pet in the household. You just have to
Yeah.
accommodate. Let me get him some snacks. Hold on one second.
I wonder if you viewers can see my dogs are both sound asleep by the fire behind me. They're sleeping through this whole interview.
Sorry.
Oh, of course. So what are some of the things you say to people when they're bringing a dog home for the first time?
So the most important advice for bringing a new dog into the household is to know what you want your dog to do or be. What's your dog's job in the family? Is it just companionship? Is it going to do agility work? Is it to go for walks? Or is it, each breed has their own specific idiosyncrasies. Big dogs take a lot of space. They take a lot of, they eat a lot of food. You have to kind of look at your budget. What can you afford? Some breeds are much more expensive to take care of than others, like a bulldog or a French bulldog. Those dogs come with a lot of health problems. And so you have to be prepared for veterinary bills that go along with those dogs. So even though they're super cute, they're also very expensive long term. So you have to keep those things in mind when you're looking for a new pet. I always like to go through a rescue because you can foster to adopt, so you can have the pet in your household for a couple of weeks and see if they fit. Are they housebroken? Are they super aggressive? Are they, a lot of the rescues have already kind of tested them to see how they'll interact with people and other pets. But it gives you a minute to try on the dog too, and see if it's going to be a fit for your house. So,
just to see if it's a match. I like that. I think that's a great idea. It's better than making a long-term commitment and then it not working out somehow.
Right. And that's the problem with you when you get the dog right out of the shelter. You don't know what you're getting. They're probably in the shelter because they have a behavioral problem. And so either they bark too much, or they soil the house, or they're aggressive, or they bite, or the rescues have usually screened them for those problems, and so what you're getting when you get the dog. The foster to adopt, it's a great way to see if the dog's a fit. And then puppies are, you can't foster to adopt a puppy. That's what you get when you take the puppy home. So
but you're only dealing then, I think, with the genetics as opposed to any sort of behaviors that have been learned, right? You're just dealing with.
So you're starting from scratch, and so and like with Marty, it's either he was barking at other dogs on the street, or he was barking at the UPS guy, or whatever his little idiosyncrasies are. But that's where, as my part is to train him so that he,
Mhm.
fits into my family. Is that something that I can
Yeah.
tolerate, or is that something that I need to work on? And dogs always do so much better with structure and consistency. And I know we
Mhm.
briefly talked about barking on the street. A
Yeah,
lot
we
of
were
it is.
talking about this before. Yeah, let's dig down on this one. So I'm sure I'm the only one who has a dog like this, but one of my dogs, the new one, he barks at every dog on the street. He doesn't bark at people or trucks or bicycles or anything, but when he sees another dog, he goes ballistic, and he doesn't want to hurt the dog, but he just gets so excited, and it's obnoxious.
Mhm.
So before we went on the air, you were giving me some tips. It's all about the treats. And what are the magic words again? Right
Well, it's
here.
just whatever you want your word to be or your command. It's to train him that when you say something, uh, like with Marty, it's right here. And so
Mhm.
I say right here, and he looks at me, and I give him a treat. So when we're walking down the street, I can see some dogs coming uh, ahead of us, and as they're approaching, I'm saying right here the whole time. So he's looking at me the whole time instead of looking down the street at the dogs that are coming. So by the time,
Mhm.
we can do the right here thing all the way through that interaction. So he's completely
Is it
distracted with the other
is
dogs
it
coming
treat
down the
after
street.
treat after treat? I mean,
It is. Yeah, as long as
yeah.
he's doing the command, and even when you're walking down the street and he looks up at you without saying the command, you give him a treat. So it's always that it's when he's paying attention to you, making that eye contact, that means he's connected to you. So uh, then whatever's happening in the surrounding uh, vicinity, he's not distracted. He's just paying attention to the owner, to the
When
guardian.
dogs do bark at, let's say, other dogs, what does it mean? What are they saying by going crazy and barking like that?
Uh, I'm crazy. I don't know what they're saying.
I
It's
mean,
like a greeting. It's a
is it?
nervousness. Sometimes it's a
Mhm.
little bit of an anxiety thing. Some dogs, they've taken it as their job to be the protector of the pack, and so especially like little dogs are more of an alarmist. They're letting us know that there's danger coming or what they perceive as danger. Big dogs, like a German Shepherd or um,
Mhm.
uh, a large breed dog, they're more of a protective. It's
Mhm.
basically all protection depending on the size of the dog. Some are more to alert you, the other ones are to actually physically protect you. So a lot of it's just to keep us safe. And
Oh,
so
really? Okay. Okay.
dogs have a job, and their innate job is to protect the pack. So
Mhm.
that's what they're doing, is either alerting us. Some alert us way too much. That's when we need to start scaling that back and training them so that they're not so noisy on the street. It's letting them
Yeah.
know that we know that everything's cool.
Yes. Okay. Oh, so that's the message by the right here and the treat is everything's fine and I'm in charge. Right?
Hmm.
You don't have to.
Basically,
Yeah.
yep. You don't have to go
Interesting.
crazy and letting me know that there's somebody coming. I can see them coming. You're doing a great job. A lot of it too is uh, dogs that walk way in front of the owner. Uh, they have more responsibility to alert the owner. So if you have your dog walking right beside you or a little bit behind you, you're the one
Oh.
that's doing all of the introducing, all of the interaction with anybody that's coming down the street. So it takes some of the pressure off of the dog if they're not way out in front of you. Because if they're way in front,
Interesting.
they've got all of the responsibility of making sure greeting, introducing you to this new animal that's coming down the street, and so that causes a lot of the barking. Is they've got a lot of
Mm.
responsibility.
All right. Thank you. That actually helps a lot. So how often should we be walking our dogs? Does that depend on the dog's type of dog?
It totally depends on the dog, but early in the
Uh-huh.
pandemic,
Yeah.
so many dogs came in that were stiff and sore because they were getting like 3 or 4 more walks a day than they were, because I mean, if you have a camera and you watch your dog while you're at work, your dog sleeps like
Yeah.
75, 80% of the time while you're gone. They're just like, they sleep. So we're home,
Mhm.
during the
Yeah.
pandemic, and everybody's walking their dogs, extra. So the dogs, like, the kids are walking the dog, the parents are walking the
That
dog,
is so funny.
extra walks, longer hikes, so
Right.
so
So it's been a lot of work this pandemic for dogs, hasn't it?
yeah, they're like, please go back to work because I would like to just sleep.
No, but actually I worry about that sometimes because I adopted my dog during the pandemic. He doesn't know what it's like for me to not be around all the time.
Right.
You know, he
Yeah.
might, I don't know, maybe he'll be fine. But, and when we do all go back to work, um, and I know some people have had to work all the way through this pandemic in very dangerous settings. So, but for those people who've been lucky enough to be able to work from home, when the world reopens again, um, how how many times during the day should a dog be able to go outside? I mean, I'd love to hear what a vet has to say about this.
So you can customize that for your own pet. Also, some dogs can spend several hours without going outside. So if you work an 8-hour shift, some dogs can spend the whole day without being let out. Uh, I I have the luxury of working from home, so I don't let them go more than like maybe 3 or 4 hours without being let
Mm,
out. But in the morning, we go for an extra long walk. Marty
mhm.
gets 3 loops. Fifi, my older dog, who's got 3 legs, she can only do like half of one loop. So,
Mhm.
that's a customized walk for them. And then in the evening, we
Yeah,
do a shorter walk. But and then during the day, I let them out to
just
go
to run
potty
in
in
the,
the side yard.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
in the side yards. And during the day, they're not so amped about going for a walk anyway. But you have to see what your schedule permits, and then dogs are super. They accommodate so well to your schedule and what your demands are. So
Mhm.
um, don't stress out about it if you can't walk them 3 times a day. 2 good
Mhm.
walks, and if they can handle holding their bladder through the
Mhm.
whole day, don't stress if they can't go out midday either. It's a lot of work to organize a dog walker or somebody to come by and let them
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I know some people have workplaces where they can bring their pets in with them.
Mm,
But
that's a great place to work. Yeah.
yeah, it is a great place to work. Um, so what else do we need to know about pets during the pandemic? What about puppies? I mean, what do you tell people about bringing home a puppy? How
So
to
puppies are a lot of work.
Mhm.
Right off the bat, be prepared. The first couple of months are just pretty strenuous. It's like having a newborn.
Mhm.
So, um, but what I always recommend is watch some training videos. Give a
Oh
plug to
yeah.
Zach George. He's a dog trainer. He recently
Mhm.
adopted a puppy, and he goes through the whole gamut of bringing the puppy home. Crate training, uh, you know, leash training. From the whole journey of bringing a puppy home and getting them integrated, and then the
Mm,
barking and the pulling on the leash, and teaching them so they don't run out the door. Um, but
yeah,
it
right.
puppies they do so much better with structure and
Mhm.
consistency, and
Mhm.
and most behavioral problems that you see are lack of exercise. So if your dog's
Mm.
acting up, or like tearing up the house, or just kind of being a little bit of a nuisance, add an extra walk, add an extra walk in, and then
Mhm.
it's a lot of it's distraction and redirection. Like it's even the right here command with walking down the street. But if they're biting
Mhm.
you, or especially puppies like to chew on people when they bring them home.
Mhm.
It's because they're teething, and they have to learn those boundaries of whether if, is biting good or bad, or what's acceptable. So
Yeah.
redirection, consistency, and structure. Um,
Those are true with raising children too, especially when they're small.
yeah,
That whole redirect,
consistency.
it used to be, that with kids, we would, the idea was to tell them they were doing something wrong. And these days it's much more redirect.
And that's with dogs too. I mean, they respond so much better to positive reinforcement. Spanking your dog or over disciplining them, it really, I hate to say this, but it like breaks their little spirit. So sometimes you have to be firm with them and set some boundaries, but generally it's redirect, structure, and training. You can do
And what about
anything.
training? Where you talk about training videos, and that's a great idea. It never crossed my mind actually but what about going to classes with your dogs? Do you recommend that?
Absolutely, but right now there really aren't any places that offer training classes. Everything's kind of on lockdown. So, but training videos, especially, a lot of people have new puppies, so and you can get a lot of free training off of YouTube, and just great pointers. Little things that are little nuggets that you wouldn't have to spend a fortune with a trainer on.
What about cats during the pandemic? Is there anything that you've seen in particular about cats? I mean, I'm not a cat person, so I don't know the right question to ask.
Cats are so aloof. They want us to go back to work too, because they're like, why are you still in the house? You've been here far too long. It's time for you to go.
Right. We've interrupted their routine, right?
Oh, yeah. But feed me before you go.
Right, by the way. Right. And what about if you have a cat and you want to also get a dog? How do dogs innately want to kill cats or hurt them?
No. They play like with Marty. He plays really rough with Leonard, so I've got to monitor how hard or how rough he plays with him, because he'll grab Leonard and just kind of pull him around. Leonard actually doesn't mind it, but there are some dogs that are very prey driven, and they see a cat as something that they would kill, and so you have to just be very conscientious. But if you start with a puppy, and a lot of times the cats will be more alpha than the dog, and so the dog has to watch out for the cat. But you can have mixed households with dogs and cats, and everybody gets along fine. It's just bringing in a new dog that's older, that you don't know what their history is, or their behavior, if they're prey driven, and if they'll hurt the cat. But generally, they all get along fine.
All right, here's another question. It's a silly question that I've. Why do goldfish always die when you bring them home from the pet store? What is that? What is that all about?
I don't know. I don't know much about fish, other than that there are some fish that live a really long time, and they can actually do surgery on fish. They
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they stick them in carbonated water, and it anesthetizes them so they can do surgery. It's the craziest thing. But yeah, I don't know why
Surgery
goldfish die.
on a fish. Yeah, they just do. Here's a question in the chat, and that is the use of alcohol or sanitizing wipes good for cleaning pets' fur?
So there's really no reason to do that. You can clean their feet from walking on the dirty street, but we don't have to worry about, I'm sure they're probably asking about potential exposure to COVID.
Yeah.
And the information that I know about COVID is that you don't have to worry about it being on surfaces, or picking it up from a surface. And pets don't carry it. I mean, there have been some cases of pets contracting COVID, but usually it's in a household where everybody's got COVID, and the pets get it too. But they're not the. If you're walking down the street, you don't have to worry about getting COVID from the dog. And if I wouldn't stress out about that, I wouldn't use alcohol on my pet either. So
they'll lick their fur, won't they? Wouldn't they lick their fur and then?
Exactly. Yeah. So the only thing I would worry about is them bringing, just dirty, yucky stuff from the street in on their feet. because dogs
I
poop
never
and pee
thought
on
of
the street.
cleaning my dogs. So, do you clean your dog's feet when you come in from the street?
Nope, I don't.
Oh, okay, no.
No, but we like avoid, because you can see where the dogs pee on, a certain spot.
Yeah,
So we don't walk through that either. But
right.
the streets are actually pretty dirty if you think about it. And do
Yeah,
we take our shoes off when we come into the house? We should probably. Um, but
we should, but we probably don't. I remember when I lived on the East Coast, the dogs in the winter when they put those crystals down on the snow to melt the
mhm,
snow, it would get in
yeah,
their paws and it would burn.
yeah. But it's basically a salt, and so
Yeah,
that's why that would irritate their feet. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I only have one more question, which is, what have I, what have I forgotten to ask you? That's something that you would, or is something that Marty wants to say before we say goodbye tonight?
I've been
Is there
teaching him
a
to have
message?
it.
Yeah.
We're working on an inside voice.
Oh, an
So
inside voice. Was that the outside voice by accident?
that was halfway inside,
Oh,
halfway outside. So no, I just pets are so rewarding, and
okay.
I'm just so grateful that being a veterinarian to have my own pets, so I know um, I can relate to my clients better. When they're walking through things with their pets. So I'm just very grateful that I've got the career that I have, and my clients, and you, and I've
Mhm.
through connections that I've made through you, I've met some really nice people um, that
You
have
do
that have.
acupuncture too, don't you?
I do acupuncture. Yeah, I do a lot of geriatric pain management, older pet
Mhm.
type stuff. But one
Mm.
thing I wanted to add is just the community that you work with. I've
Mm.
benefited from. So
Good.
one of a mutual client, or mutual friend, um, introduced me to a nonprofit that works with people that help homeless people with their pets. And so I've worked with helping people that are homeless get medical care for their pets, which has been also just like another dimension of it just brings it full circle with being of service, being part of the community. And I'm grateful for you and your community, because that was how I got introduced to
I'm
working with
so
this
happy.
nonprofit.
I don't think I knew that, but that makes me so happy on so many levels because I feel like pets pets bring out the best in us, you know. I think
Hmm.
they make us more uh, just more complete as humans, really, you know, living in harmony with other, you know, with these other beings. And if somebody is unhoused and living on the street, what a comfort to have a pet and to know that their pet could be cared for. That's amazing. I didn't know about that.
And the thing is, there's so much stigma around being homeless anyway, but I find that the homeless population takes sometimes better care of their pet than people that are housed. And so they just uh, but no, it's very rewarding to be able to help them. And the other thing I'd like to mention about pets and just being centered and grounded, there's so much stress in the world right now with COVID and politics, and you know like my older cat that's meowing, I have to check myself. Am I centered and grounded and uh, handling this with grace, or am I mad at my cat for crying? So
Oh,
so
yeah.
I need to be more present, and the the best way to describe it is, am I handling the situation with grace? And pets are they're little beings, and um, we have to be able to communicate with them with compassion and empathy and patience. And so it's a great way for us to just work on our own centeredness and groundedness. It sounds kind of um, kooky, but
Hey, we're in Los Angeles. That's and I'm
but
so glad that what?
no, it's just, if we can uh, treat our pets the way that we need to treat everybody in our social circles, we would be
Yeah.
much better off. You know.
That's true. I mean, I do think that they can help us be calm, and they're also,
Mhm.
they can let us know when we're stressed, right? I mean, if I'm
Mhm.
watching a movie and it's a tearjerker and I'm crying, then the dogs are looking at me with panic on their
Oh
faces,
yeah,
you know.
they're so intuitive. They know when we're upset, and so
Hmm.
that's their job, is to take care of us. So they'll come and make sure that they'll try to comfort us, or do what they can to help ease whatever we're going through.
Isn't that incredible? It's incredible, really.
Awesome. It's so
Yeah.
awesome, and just want to hug them and squeeze them even harder. So even though dogs technically don't like that, but
I just have to mention my daughter's roommate has a Maine Coon cat.
mm,
This cat is, it's like, I would say
ginormous. Yeah,
it's so big, and it's
yeah,
obsessed with her, and it's just constantly sort of draped all over her, and it's an extraordinary meeting of these species. You know, they it's just fascinated with her, and I mean, these are amazing experiences. I don't know. I wouldn't last 1 minute without animals in my life.
yeah. There's some studies that show that cats actually bond stronger with their human owners than dogs do, even though you can't tell because they're
Even
so
though you
aloof.
can't tell, it's happening, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
I can believe that.
they have a
I can
stronger
believe
bond.
that. It's a blessing. Well, you're a blessing to this community. You really are. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much tonight for sort of opening up a little bit of what it looks like to be doing the work that you do in the very special way that you do it, which I admire so much. Thank you, Dr. Fox.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right, stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Good night.